Is it somebody right on my core? This is the moment you're meant to know.
Well, hello there, sunflowers, and how are you guys today? Well, I am here to first give you guys a quick deep dive into Billie Eilish, and then I'm going to do a reading on her because she has been quite the person in the media lately. Now, some deep dive, just in case for those of you that are not familiar with Billie Eilish entirely. She was first born on December 18th, 2001, making her 24, but also, she is a Sagittarius. And what's interesting is that the fact that being born on the 18th, which is towards the end of Sagittarius, I noticed that maybe that could be and she's pushing towards the um, Capricorn cusp of Sagittarius, and Capricorn, especially with late bloom placements, can symbolize a sense of isolation because Saturn also rules Capricorn, and Saturn's all about being cold, dark, broody, isolated, secluded, almost outcasted. Not much like Pluto, but I'm not here to talk about astrology. So all that being said, those things are just in her inner skirts that she knows all too familiar because she just happens to be towards the end of Sagittarius. And usually it's not the greatest to be born towards the end of the sign or have anything towards the end of the sign, really, because that shows a sense of maturity, which is a good thing. But also when you're maturing, getting towards the ending of a cycle or an energy, that shows that it's a time to move on and things are going to start feeling a little bit more uncomfortable and like you've outgrown things and almost a bit out of place, especially when you're getting closer towards that cusp energy. And I see that theme is running a whole lot through Billie Eilish's life. I just wanted to put that out there before I dive deep. Now, first and foremost, 2015. Yes, almost 11 years ago. Yeah, 11 years ago. At the age of 13, Billie Eilish became At the age of 13, Billie Eilish became known and most popular for her song Ocean Eyes. Now, it sounds familiar, but looking at her eyes, what does it give? Ocean eyes. And guess what? It was produced by her brother, Phineas. However, this song was originally made for her dance teacher and later was put on SoundCloud, and that gained her popularity. 4 years later, in 2019, though, however, she released her first album with a very interesting title and thought-provoking as well. When we fall asleep, where do we go? Now that already tells you she's 17 at this time. And she's like already asking these questions. It's philosophical, deep. Just look at her aesthetics, and that has been her aesthetics since the very beginning. So because of that, her most known song is Bad Guy. I'm a bad guy. Do 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 do. Okay. Anyway, I'm done with Billie Eilish. So anyway, her music is really good. Phineas had a chef's kiss to that. He should be a really good producer because he knows how to find a niche and a sound that is unique to the artist and individual. Phineas, hop on that. I'm just telling you that. But guess what? That's not all for Billie Eilish. She has been homeschooled along with her brother Phineas, but they come from a house of actors. So because of that, actors, a musician slash producer, Billie Eilish at the age of 8 joined the Los Angeles Children's Choir, and then 2 years later and 3 years later, at the age of 11, she started becoming a songwriter. And then 2 years later, Ocean Eyes became her song that broke her out. And then 4 years later, she wrote an album. So because of that, we see the progression here. And then 3 years later, after that, she became the youngest artist to win a, okay, hold up. Let me get this right for you guys. She became the youngest 21st century artist to win a Grammy at the age of 20. And you're just wondering, what are 21st century artists? Guess what? This is a huge achievement on Billie Eilish. Out of all the people I'm about to name, at the age of 20, Billie Eilish was popping compared to all of them. Taylor Swift, Rihanna, Miley Cyrus, Beyonce, The Weeknd, Lady Gaga, Bruno Mars, One Direction, Nicki Minaj, Adele, Justin Bieber, Drake, Ariana Grande, Amy Winehouse, just to name a few. So those are 21st century artists, and Billie Eilish is the first one to get a Grammy at a young age. So applause to Billie. You know, she has all her accolades. Like, another accolade is that she is a real person for advocating for health issues, as well as she is very important. She is very keen on the environment, so she advocates about that as well, just to name a few. But outside of being homeschooled, actually bringing back the fact that she's being homeschooled, to deep dive just a little bit more into her life to figure out where this maybe dark persona could come from. Maybe it was always there, I'm not sure. However, because she was homeschooled, you have to wonder, how did she make friends? Well, she made friends within her community that were both in dance and choir. So you would think when she became famous, those people that were trying to, maybe they weren't thinking of becoming famous, but they were into dance, they were into the arts, they were into creativity, they were into self-expression, they would get Billie Eilish in her getting famous. Yeah, you're not going to understand the traveling, you're not going to understand the long hours, you're not going to understand the commitments that I have, you're not going to understand, yeah, I said I would do this, but I can't do this because I got bills to pay and I'm obligated through contracts. So because of that, she lost most of her friendships. And she said that she realized that on her birthday, I think it was her 20th birthday, she realized that all the people that was at her birthday party were all her staff and people that she paid. So she had zero friends to celebrate with, except for maybe one best friend. But I'm not sure if that best friend was there. But that was a sad realization, that she realized how isolated and alone she is in this industry. However, we know her for her baggy appearance. I didn't have a picture up here for that, but she still uses a baggy image. She says she's pretty staple and consistent with her look and branding from the very beginning. Congrats to her on that one. However, her baggy aesthetic is from her insecurities of her body, but also just the fact that she hasn't always felt feminine or girly. So by hiding that physique, it was able to avoid her problems in a sense. However, also being put in the public eye, and we all got to remember that time when, if you guys don't remember, but there was a time when she was not wearing baggy clothes and people was dragging her body, and it was awful. But it is the internet, and that made her feel even worse. But that was even before all this. So because of this, she from the ages of 13, when she first started her first got famous, to when she was just about to release her first album at the age of 16/17, she was going through a major depression spell, where she was self-harming, where she had idolizations of ending her life, visioning how it would happen, and things like that. So because of that, she was going through a dark period. And not only that, the people on the internet are judging her body or judging her appearance. Why does she wear baggy clothes and things like that? She's a young girl going through puberty on top of that. So she has all these things that she has to work through in puberty out in the public eye. So that's another thing. And not to mention, she also has Tourette's as well. So she has a condition that makes her feel as though it's harder to connect with people because she might have outbursts or might say things that are uncontrolled to her. However, her degree of Tourette's is. But she also has mentioned that she has suffered from sexual abuse. Can I say that? And because of that's another thing that's on her list and roster. Can we see the long history of all the things that have mounted up to the aesthetics of Billie Eilish? She wears her she wears her identity for real. She has also mentioned that the fact that at the young age of 13 and 16 that being in the industry and being in the presence of executives and stuff like that, they were not considering their audience. Like, when you talking to somebody, think about their age, think about what they know, think about what they're exposed to. The execs were just like, we don't care, we want to talk to you like you are our age and you're on our level, like you can comprehend what we're saying, we're just going to talk to you any kind of way and don't even care that you're a 13-year-old girl. So because of that, she started feeling like a prop. She started feeling like she had to perform, that she wasn't who she was, that she started thinking, I wish I was never famous, basically, because she started thinking about the times of when she was Billie Eilish, before she was the famous Billie Eilish, and was wishing to go back to those times. Quite reminiscing of that ending of self kind of thinking. So because of that, just all the things that has piled on. However, she has gotten therapy and she has moved on from those things, and she does look happy and more healthier. But we also have to think about that that adjustment to fame at an early young age. She was almost basically like a Disney star if you think about it, but it was during the age of SoundCloud, and we could almost not quite consider an iPad kid, but just about that weird age where it's like a transition in the Gen Zs. So because of that, that's another thing that she also had to balance, is like always being on like the borderline or always having to like balance something, or always trying to fit in, or always trying to walk on eggshells, or always trying to do this or trying to do that. But the Sagittarius in her wants to be free, wants to be expressive, wants to do herself. So she almost wants to go against the mold, which is very Aquarius like, but I digress into that. So that's a whole I was a whole little deep dive about Billie Eilish that I wanted to talk about. Just wanted to make sure that I got everything. Yes. So because of that, I just want to pull some cards. And let's not forget that recently she has opened up about, the Palisade fires. She uses her platform, I will have to say, as responsibly as she believes that she's using it. She tries to advocate. She tries to speak up, like during the Palisade LA fires, during the what was it? It was just recent, talking about oh yeah, nothing's free on stolen land, and she was trying to stand up for her cause and speak for those that are misunderstood, the underdogs, because that's what she relates to, and she wants to use her platform to also voice for people that are like her and that can identify with her. So because of that, she tries to be righteous in a sense when it comes to using her platform. But hey, I'm just here to pull some cards to see what is going on with Billie Eilish. And then there was somebody that was trying to go to Billie Eilish's house after that, and they were saying that she had it not boarded up, but had a fence, and that she's a hypocrite. But also, Billie Eilish is supposed to make a acting debut with the Bell Jar, which, let me read to you guys what the Bell Jar is. Apparently, it's a very iconic film, if you guys haven't heard. The Bell Jar is the chronicles the breakdown of Esther Greenwood, a bright, beautiful, enormously talented college student coming of age in the 1950s America as she navigates the pressures in society along with her own ambitions. While at a prestigious competitively while at a prestigious, competitively won position at a New York City magazine one summer, Esther finds herself struggling with the looming expectations of marriage, motherhood, and giving up on her dreams to achieve them. She becomes increasingly disillusioned and her mental health deteriorates, ultimately leading her to undergo harsh treatment and therapy. Does that not sound like a role that would be right up Billie Eilish's alley? Well, yes, producers are getting on it right ASAP. They want to talk to Billie Eilish. They want to prioritize her before anybody else. They're just like, if Billie Eilish doesn't say yes to the role, then we'll look for anybody else to fulfill it. But for that, we'll see. She has talked about that since she's made her acting debut in TV and she has done singing. She also has always dreamed of being a not a music actor, being a movie actor and being on the screen. So because of that, let's see what it is with Billie Eilish at her age of 25 and figuring out Billie Eilish. Okay, we have the Knight of Wands, which is interesting. We see somebody that is on a journey, somebody that is on a creative journey at that. They see that their world is open to them and they're going to almost be a trailblazer at that, to be honest, with the Knight of Wands. So let's see what's at her foundation. The Ace of Wands is at her foundation, which is very fitting. She feels as though opportunities just open up for her, maybe a little too easily, but she knows that when she puts her drive and energy into it, that she can make it work out in her favor. So because of that, she almost feels like a magician without being like a magician. She's like a magician undercover, or like a magician that doesn't know that they're a magician yet. In the past, we had the Six of Pentacles. And honestly, going back to all that political stuff that I was talking about, Billie Eilish is learning to find the balance, learning what is worth the risk, honestly, to speak and not to speak. However, sometimes that's just the risk that you got to take when you want to speak your mind and if you want to be a true advocate. But you know what? Celebrities are doing a lot of things weird lately. Like I'm going to be doing a reading on Doja Cat, so check out for that later too. But let's see what's above her head at this present moment. The Queen of Cups. I'm not quite surprised. If I almost didn't know it, I would think Billie Eilish was an empath. I'm just saying it like, it's just something about this Queen of Cups energy that gives me that the weight of the world and like looking at everything. That's why like sometimes she just got to learn to pick and choose her battles of when to express and when not to express, because she's on her path. And when she's on her path and journey, she's got to learn to take critique and criticism moving forward, and learning that like I said, some things are just not we're talking about, but hey, it's Billie Eilish. But this Queen of Cups symbolizes that whatever's going on in her present reality, the news that she's looking at, because she seems to be a very woke individual. And so because of that, it would seem like the reality is just weighing on her even more, and what is going on in the political state. Yet in the future, we see the Nine of Swords. Wow, it's like I almost anticipated that card coming, because that card just symbolizes more depression, but it symbolizes endless sleepless nights, being stressed out, things weighing down on your mental, which we would see right here with this Queen of Cups. But it's the things that get her emotionally riled up, the things that pull at her heartstrings, the things that tug at her, that evoke strong reactions out of her, that keeps her thinking, that keeps things running on her brain, that she ruminates, thinks about. Maybe she goes to therapy and talks to somebody about it, or maybe she uses her music or I checked her platform. Her platform does not seem to be doing any sort of advocating lately. It's all about living her best life. But I just want to pull some outside forces. I haven't done that lately. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to pull. The 4 cards I will pull will be her outside influences. And those outside influences are going to influence her future. So overall, when it comes to Billie Eilish and just who she is as an individual and as a person, seems like she starts off great and starts off good because of this ace. So she's thinking positive. She's grown. She's evolved. She's elevated. She's leveled up. She's no longer that same Billie Eilish that first was in the industry. However, when the internet is, honestly, the internet is the internet, and the hate comments just come with it, especially when you're a big celebrity like that. So because of that Queen of Cups energy is never going to fully go away with her, but it is always going to be something. It's not even just her. It's not even just like things within her life, because she looks fully fulfilled within her life, but it's just looking at the injustice and looking at the imbalance and looking at the cruelty, the evil she might even think of the world that is happening, the destruction, the violence. It just saddens her, sickens her. She almost feels like it's despicable. So like all those things, it's just gives her the ick. So because of that, she tries not to think about those things and finds ways to distract herself, so that way she doesn't affect her mental health. But let's just see what these outcome cards are for her future. We have Dusk. We have a Conversation. We have a Deception Indicated. We have Spring. And we have Old. Oh my. Okay. Well, we never want old in the future, do we? What I see here, though, although surprisingly enough, the foundation here is, I'm going to start here at the foundation because I really like the foundation, because we have a Conversation and we have Spring, and that shows life and that shows communication, and that also emphasizes this Ace of Wands energy. She has a solid foundation within herself. So because of that, it's not like she's ever going to allow herself to get to that low point in that sense. But, we all have highs and lows in life. It's just they're different highs and they're different lows because they're different days and different years. So because of that, it's like learning to understand, recognize the triggers and things like that in order to avoid that. But also being respectful and also trying to be yourself, because she doesn't want to muzzle herself at the same time, because she has worked so hard to get here at this point. So because of that, she doesn't want to put all that work behind just because, and that's where that old energy comes from. Like I said, even though that old Billie Eilish isn't there, it's not always going to truly go away. There's going to be some of that residual stuff that's just truly in her, and that's just truly her nature, and she truly embodies it. So because of that, it's only going to morph and grow and evolve. But it's always going to have the same old roots, which is a strong foundation of self within her, because she is fire. And thinking of spring, Aries, during this time and period, during sea fires, maybe it could be during the seasons of fire. She could be feeling a little bit more rejuvenated, or a little bit more spark of energy within her. It just gets that energy in. It just gives her that little boost of energy she didn't think that she needed. But that's just the way things flow and work. However, we see a dusk, which is that night. It's that not quite fully seen potential. It's that not quite being known to you. So it's something that she's working towards. There's definitely something that she's working towards, and that's trying to find the truth. The truth in what? I'm not quite sure. It's the truth that's going to make her feel satisfied and make her feel happy in this life. So because of that, until she can find that information, every little piece of bit of information she takes with a critique and can overanalyze. And that can even honestly add to the Nine of Swords energy. Like I said, old habits and old patterns, but it's also being able to recognize those things in order to move forward, to not fall back into those old cycles. But yeah, I see here just some deception indicated. And it makes me wonder, it makes me question, is she trying to seek out lies and seek out injustice and seek out cruelty and be like that underdog martyr that's going to speak out and going to stand out and be that voice for the minorities, as they say, the outcasts, the rejects, the rebels, the revolutionaries. You got to think of what kind of energy is Billie Eilish calling up towards, because it's quite interesting that out of all the 21st century artists that are popping for real, guys, and she has all these accolades, and yet she is like the most dark in energy and just in persona. You gotta wonder what kind of audience is she drawing, and is this going to be a sort of like healing energy, as like she's going to be like that beacon of light, like maybe she's going to be like that female version of like XXXTentacion, not saying like offing herself or being killed early, but just the sense of being that person that a generation looks up to when they're feeling sad, when they feel like they need a sort of somebody to understand, to vocalize how they feel, what they think, what they might be going through, or what they didn't have words to, and now that they finally do, it's like a realization. And as I always say, once you can name it, you can change it, you can work on it, you can finally mold it. So because of that, she's like a voice of light doing light work, but dark in herself. So because of that, it's quite interesting in that Queen of Cups and that Nine of Swords energy just had me a bit curious. Anyway, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this reading on Billie Eilish. I sure did. I just wanted to do a deep dive on her as a person, and then just see what the cards could tell me about her in this present moment, and how she has evolved, and how those early on experiences have shaped her as an individual in this present moment, especially during this political landscape when there is when there's a whole lot to talk about, and there's a whole lot on a whole lot of people's minds. So because of that, knowing her, I would expect her to be somebody that is very vocal at this present moment. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this reading. I sure did. Billie Eilish definitely chooses to use her platform with responsibility, but with respect as well. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this reading as well. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. It would really mean a lot to the channel. I would really appreciate it. Please and thank you. Become a sunflower. Spread those beautiful sunflower seeds all over the beautiful earth. Like this Ace of Wands energy. And be positive and be a role model for somebody out here like Billie Eilish is for a whole lots of peoples out here. With that being said, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this content, if you enjoyed my reading, and hey, if I haven't said, leave your comment down below. And also, what do you know about Billie Eilish? Are you a huge fan of Billie Eilish? Do you follow her? Does my reading touch on anything that I might not know about? With that being said, I will see you sunflowers in the next one. But you know what I got to say before I hop off? Hype, hype, hype us up. Subscribe to us. Hey, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Sunflowers.